So far, 66% do have an official diagnosis and 34% do not. Interesting. Well, we can just ramble till
that means different things to different people, though, like official diagnosis.
It does. So I thought we'd start with that. What I didn't do, I did that one, I think, last year for Lipedema month. And what I forgot to do was not give people options to add their own. It was days. I did. And you know what was good about it is I learned about so many different kinds of disorders. Hello, iPhone, and hello, Brenda. Thank you for finding the link. That tells me it's a success. Everybody's muted when you come in, but if you'd prefer not to be showing off like Kelly and me, feel free to kill your video, or feel free to leave it on video, but just leave your camera off until we get to the question portion, because there tends to be a fair bit of background chatter. We're just waiting for Jennifer. She is a working CLT. Oh, I'm going to screw it up because it depends on what country you live in. That's part of what I think, you finally go through all, we're going to be candid a bit till Jen gets here, but you go through all this navigating to finally get to the diagnosis. And then not only do they call it and spell it different things, but the therapists to help you out there have different designation initials depending on what part of the world you're in. So you'll notice one thing I'll bring up, a lot of people have corrected me in the past, and I always do it as a slash now. Whenever I post global type things, I always post lipedema and what is spelled lipoedema, because in the eastern part of the world, in Europe, UK, Australia, New Zealand, where they really know how to ring it up for lipedema, it is a different spelling. So I call the group fat disorders. Someone just asked me again this morning about that. I never do that to offend those of you that are more, I'm not going to say knowledgeable. You didn't know yesterday what you'll know today. So just always have that in your mind. It's not your fault. It's not the doctor's fault. Knowledge is an ongoing journey. And what I find when people come to my page, most of them have bought a vibration machine to help them with something, but they don't really know what that something is. And that's why I'm always so anal about my questions. But a lot of people know that they have fat that's weird, or fat that won't go away, or they're living on 5 calories and they're still gaining weight. It's so part of the reason this group is called Vibration for Fat Disorders is people are looking, I want people to find us, and we will enlighten them and welcome and educate them once they get to better information. So today isn't about the right information. It's not about the wrong information. It's a lot of experience coming from 3 completely different perspectives in life. And, hopefully some of it resonates and helps you. We're not here to offer medical advice. We're not here to diagnose. But, there was no school to go to when I became a mom for the first time. There was no school that could teach me about how hard homeschooling that child later in life would be. So, sometimes experience and sharing not only gives you the knowledge that maybe puts you in the right direction, or maybe makes you look at that information again with more experience this time. Information is an ongoing journey. And I always tell my daughter, always be curious. If there's no curiosity, you're not going to seek answers. And I'm not a scientist, but I come from a very big scientific background because I've been getting my ass kicked about these vibration machines for a decade and a half. But if there's no curiosity, science kind of doesn't exist. Nobody goes and does a study on something because they're not curious about it, or do they? We also live in an environment, I'm going to apologize right now to any researchers, physical therapists, and doctors that are contributing to the world of research. It needs to be done, but the North American version of science has very much been bastardized in the last 20 to 30 years. And peer-reviewed research is not hands-on, getting your hands sweaty and working with people and looking for alternative choices for your care and hopefully someday a cure, or at least a more aggressive solution that doesn't hurt so darn much. So we were expecting a third guest today. I'm wondering, because we're all kind of in different time zones. I'm wondering if Jen is got us off by an hour, or if she's stuck with a client. So I'm going to tag her, but we're going to get started anyways, if Kelly's okay with doing that. And I just want to welcome who's here so far. Oh, I need to go up from the 1.5s. I got to get some 2s. I'm living with my readers. Hello, Lori. Hello, Michelle. Hello, Brenda. Hello, Cynthia. And hello, Lara. We're probably going to have people pop in and out. And hello, iPhone, all 3 of you. We're going to do a little bit of information, and I'm going to start with introducing who Kelly is. If you don't know who I am, and you're just seeing me in a live for the first time, I apologize for advance, and you might want to have some caffeine handy. I tend to ramble. It's my weird, sick way of motivating you. I have too much passion and too much knowledge. Sometimes it takes over. So Kelly, if Deb's rambling and she's saying the 50th point, can you be the scorekeeper mom today? Kelly and I have a lot more in common. We're homeschool moms, and I forgot I had a provincial achievement exam this morning at 9 a.m. with my daughter. So I'm school mom, and now I'm going to be lymph girl. So today is, well, I'm not going to say today, this month is Lipedema Awareness Month. And this is the first of another info session, not just something to do during Lipedema Awareness Month, but there's many conversations I get into in this group that exceed my level of maybe not understanding, but cohesion with other things you guys might be doing. And a lot of the balance in what you're doing that is successful, you know, it's not that you don't want to experiment, but you don't want to screw things up. You know, up here in Canada, if you're a hockey player and you're in the playoffs, you might not change your socks for months at a time. So if you've been doing your dry brushing and things are working for you, sometimes putting something like a vibration plate with that mix might scare the heck out of you. You don't want to disrupt things. You don't want to go back to how you were feeling before. Oh, there's my Jenny. And mom of the bride, I have to say that before I forget. Can you believe she's joining me and giving me energy after she's gone through a recent wedding of her daughter? I'm older than her, and mine's only 12. I'm going to be the grandma going down the aisle by the time that day comes. I'm just sort of rambling as I always do. I'm glad you made it. I hope your appointment went well, Jen. But today is going to be much more about the 2 other people on the call. I wanted to open, and I am going to talk about device specific stuff at the end of the live, because I know you probably have vibration machine. This page has become anything that you can buy without a diagnosis page cheaper to a degree. So it's about red lights, it's about compressions, not because I'm an expert. I'm an experienced person that years ago, before I knew what lipedema was, I knew my clients needed help, and things sometimes worked. And sometimes we had to try different approaches and different steps. And there's 2 people here today, Kelly and Jen, that have kind of been guinea pigs. Kim is also normally in the future, I'm going to say it now, we're going to do more of these calls, and she's going to be on one of them. Kim just lost a sister to the battle this week, and it pisses me off. It pisses me off. I'm full of emotion for this call, but I have to say that she's making funeral arrangements, and everybody's here loving you. But there is a third mix. Kim has Dirkums, and she's my lumps and bumps queen. But the 3 of you have been so willing, so receptive. Every time I've said, can you please try this? Trust me, can you just try this? And you know what? A lot of times it worked out awesome. And a lot of times it was awful. And I put you back in pain, and I made you swell, but it's helped all of us and all of you maybe not navigate the right path, because through our experimentation, the road's going to have bumps. But through experience of experimenting, I think you're going to find some solutions that are going to break the bank, and you're not going to need a diagnosis. And you know what? There's a few people here that can probably answer your question and send you in the right direction if you're looking to get those answered today. So I want to start with Kelly, who, you know, age and beauty rank. So I don't know, you were at the same age. We're both post 50. So we're going through all that menopausal shit too. But, oh, I don't know if I can say that, but I did. Kelly is my gal from Texas, and I'd like you to tell us a little bit about yourself. For those of you who don't know you already, tell us where you're also from.
All right. We've been connected for a while now, like a few years, and it's always a journey. People have this notion that because I help women with lipedema, my journey's been smooth, and that's why I can help women with lipedema, but that is not true at all. I had to go through a lot to find a doctor who would just sign a paper for me. And so just because we look always happy and we're always positive and we're always on the side of helping clients and doing that kind of stuff, that doesn't mean that our journeys are smooth. So I had a daughter late in life too, 43, and that's when everything exploded for me with a lot of chronic illnesses, but especially my lipedema and lymphedema, though I didn't have names for those at that time. It is hard. And I think one of the reasons we wanted to do this is because we really do have a heart for just helping people. It's not about making some more money or doing a certain protocol or making people feel bad if they eat ice cream every once in a while. I mean, there are groups, there are people who are so dogmatic like that. But for us, it's like, these are real women struggling with real things, trying to just live a real life. And if there's a way that we can help them decrease pain and regain some of that life, then that's what I want to do. Because what was a trigger for me is when my 3-year-old daughter couldn't lean against me anymore to read books at night because of the pain. And that's not an acceptable way to live. It was, I remember that afternoon when she leaned against me and I moved, and she was already anticipating that I was going to move. Like, she knew that it was going to hurt. And when you have a child late in life, I mean, I have 3 grown children as well, but when you have a child late in life, you know there are going to be different challenges than when you have a child earlier. But some things you can't anticipate. You can't anticipate that your health is just going to fall off a cliff, and you want to be there for that child. And so that's when I started, and I was like, something is really, really wrong. A 3-year-old doesn't weigh enough to cause excruciating pain. And since that time, I found out, you know, a cat paw on your leg can cause excruciating pain. All these different things that shouldn't cause pain do. And I think part of it for me is understanding that people are telling the truth. They're telling the truth. If they tell you that they eat healthy and they don't binge and they don't eat, you know, live on frozen pizza, they're telling the truth. They didn't get to that point because of tons of bad choices. They didn't get to the point with lipedema because of tons of bad choices. I don't know that I could have done better. I talked to my nutritionist. She didn't have any suggestions. And so part of the reward for me in this is just seeing women for sometimes the first time have validation and be believed, and start baby steps on a journey that can gain some of their life back. So that's where I am. That's why I'm so happy to do this with you, because you don't have some of the struggles, but you have such a heart and a passion, and you do believe women. You believe us when we tell you what we're struggling with and what kind of help we need and what's working and what isn't working. And so I applaud you for that, because there aren't many of you.
I'll tell you a little confession about how Kelly and I really met. And some of you are going to go, I remember. Okay. I, like any of you, like I say, I found out about this. Talk about starting at the top. My first introduction to lipedema was through Dr. Karen Herbst. When I called her to kick her ass because she bought a vibration machine and she wasn't using it. Sound familiar? Right? And, you know, for different reasons than many of you, but I later in life, I do lives for another company, and they happen to have some massage guns to give away. And I only had a couple hundred people on my page at that time trying to support Dr. Herbst, and, you know, trying to find a way that you could connect with me without coming to my shop here in Canada. You know, this was a change in my personal support with the machines. And Kelly and Cheryl were fabulously kind enough in allowing me to post a giveaway for 500 Life Pro guns on her other page, which I'm going to make her talk about now. So after a lot of how to do this through Amazon and PayPal and frustration and potential fraud is what it kind of looked like, a lot of people did get a massage gun, and I think it really launched another tool that we just never really thought about in the past. So but that's really, Kelly was that chick with that page that knew all the food stuff that I just knew nothing about, right?
Yeah. And nutrition is a big tool. I'll call it a tool because I feel like a tool is anything you can use for yourself, make it work for you. And the massage guns, honestly, when you said massage guns, I panicked because I had recently been to a chiropractor who used one of those two-pronged things down my spine that hurt so bad I thought I was going to cry. And it's not the same thing. I was terrified it was going to be sort of the same thing.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the same thing. And
we wanted to it anyways. She did it anyways.
I did. I tried it anyway, hoping it wasn't the same thing. But I was like, it's a free thing. And I think a lot of women in our group are like, okay, we're trying to get our nutrition, but there's still, it's inflammation and it's pain. And can this really help? Because when we launched those guns, no one was talking about the guns. There weren't really any groups that were talking about the massage guns. Yeah. And I think there was a lot of confusion because people with lipedema, with the comorbidities, do tend to go to people like chiropractors who have those painful things. I don't even know what those are called. I can't remember, but they hurt. And
I brought one out. So when I get
massage gun
to my rambling, they're kind of related to the machine, even though physically they're not, they look completely different, but I'll get into that at the end. For those of you that have massage gun questions, because you always listen to what we tell you now.
So it was a great opportunity. And honestly, at the beginning, we didn't know whether we could trust you to have a heart for our group, or if you were just one of those vendors who was trying to take advantage of our group. You know, but over time, sure, you've proven that you do have a heart for people with lipedema and other disorders. And part of why we like working with you is because you check out companies and you check out products and you have real recommendations. Awesome. And you have real information. I've noticed on the group a lot lately, there's people, I went to the gym and jumped on this thing. Is that okay? And from my experience, I did go to a gym and jump on a thing, and it was horrible. It was horrible. The machines there are not what we need for the most part, and there's no instruction, and there's no understanding, and they just tell you to jump on for 30 minutes, and that's the wrong thing. Yeah. In case anybody wonders, that's the wrong thing to do. But the massage guns have been an amazing tool for so many people since that first giveaway that you did in our group. And I'm really happy that people got them, because even for me, on a good day, it's great for recovery. It's great for pain. It's great for inflammation, and it doesn't take all day. It's one of those self-care tools that doesn't take all day. And so for me, being able to use something for 5 minutes that's compact, that's not heavy, that doesn't tire me out to do it, and doesn't make me have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars and go get a prescription and convince a doctor I need it. It's all win, win, win.
Yep. Yep. It kind of segues. I'm gonna intro to Jen, just so everybody, because there's some new folks joining here, and we're doing a bit. I've got some special guests. You guys are both not just personal users, you also help and support other people. And that's why it's such a cool combo between the two of you. I'm going to switch to Jen because you kind of, thank you for reading my notes. I don't know if you realized you did, but the big thing that Kelly just kind of pointed out was it's not the tool. It's the approach in how you use it. I know you guys freaking hate me when I say, did you watch the starting video? Because I always say, there's a reason I nag. And from a supporting perspective, whether it's a massage gun or a vibration plate or going for your first manual massage therapy treatment, if the approach is similar with all of you, it makes it easier for me to navigate when I get questions like, oh my gosh, my knees hurt for a week. What did I do wrong? Well, I don't know. What did you do on the machine? Because if you watch the video, there's clues. So Jen, I'm not going to say recently, but Jen has incorporated a vibration plate not only into her personal life, but her business life. Kelly can't use a vibration machine. We're going to get back to, well, she can, but I don't want her to. So I'm going to get back to that after we get Jen's perspective. And Jen, thank you for joining us. Jen is in many ways similar to Kelly, but the big difference being she represents my undiagnosed crowd. And look at her, you know, she's not some victim walking across the screen with a cane, eating a bag of Doritos. So, you know, regardless of whether you have the label, because that's all that it is a label on your file. I'll get into that rant and I'll take the heat from the MDs later. But this is Jennifer, who is also in a warmer climate than I am presently. And she's obviously at work. Do you guys realize you both also have windows behind you? Spooky. I'm going to let Jen unmute herself and introduce herself and explain her initials to me. Before you joined us, I explained that initials are not universal in country. And a point, in case it's not on Jen's notes, is access to people like Jennifer and Kelly also varies depending on what state you reside in. So not only is the condition spelled different, and not only does the standard of care just exist, but then it's dictated to you, even though you might have these people at your disposal, some states give them more acknowledgement and more prescription access than in some states, and some not at all. So Jen, you explained that to me very well one time, and it's another, just forget money and access. That it's just another hurdle in getting help. So
it is.
Jen.
Hey, yeah, I am in Arkansas. It's way warmer than where you are today.
Sweater.
Yeah. So, well, short sleeves minus the compression. So yeah, that is something I read a lot on these pages, is about getting a diagnosis. Well, if I don't have a diagnosis, then I can't do this. I can't. No, like I know when I post my comment, and I try not to post it very often, is what good is diagnosis going to do for you? Yes, I understand insurance and blah, 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 but do you realize that, for instance, Medicare, we all know about Medicare. Medicare does pay for some, very little, and it's per lifetime, not per your deductible year, but per lifetime. They will only pay for a very limited amount of lymphatic massages to help us. But you have to have a diagnosis. You have to follow under this whole umbrella of things that you have to have. And then that's basically the same for a lot of these insurance companies. Yes, we pay our premiums, and yes, we want help. I want help from my insurance company. That would be amazing. But in the meantime, I don't have a diagnosis. I was just at the doctor less than 6 weeks ago and talked to a new doctor in Arkansas. No, I mean, he says, oh, well, there are some CPT codes for, what do you say, lymphedema? No. So yeah, it's a struggle. And I just think about, back to Kelly, like the nutrition that we have to put in our body, the things that we have to do nutritionally. that diagnosis isn't going to do me any good if I have it or not. I'm still going to have to eat well. I do my vibration plate. I have bought the leg pneumatic pump for my legs. It's not a prescription. It's not a big heavy duty one, but it's the Life Pro one, and it's pretty amazing. So there's so many things that we can do for ourselves. I work out and try to, do all these things. No diagnosis. But yet I feel like I'm taking better care of myself than my doctor would. What is he going to do? Try to shove a pill down my throat? And we all should know that a diuretic doesn't help what we have. And that's about all that they want to offer you. So I think it's very important for us as women to use our empowerment, to continue being on these groups, continue trying to find education, just from everywhere. I am so passionate about lipedema that we go to the beach all the time, and we'll be sitting there and my husband will be like, yep, she has what you have. Yep, she has what you have. Or we'll be, in Walmart, and he'll be like, yeah, she's got what you have. Oh, wait, she's got it way worse. So our self-care that we do for our own bodies is way more important to me than any diagnosis. Running across women like you, running across women like we see on these pages, they can help us nutritionally, can help us physically, can help us emotionally. Just to have an outlet is so amazing.
I'm going to ask you, Jen, and Jen's done a couple of lives on my Shake Talk. So has Kelly. I don't recall which one it was, but for those that do not know Jen, because she is undiagnosed, what kind of planted the seed? Tell the story of when you first heard about the word lipedema and where.
Well, so I'm a massage therapist, and I decided I wanted to go do some training. And I went to get my certification to become a lymphatic therapist. And I'm working, doing this class. It's super hard. And at the end, my instructor was like, pats me on the leg and says, I need to see you after class. So, of course, we all, when you're being told to stay after class, that little kid in us comes back. But she very sweetly told me, she said, asked me if I knew anything about my legs. And she said, you have lipedema. And I was like, what? What is that? And so she explains it to me. She had lipedema. And it was just like the floodgates opened of all this emotion, because you're finally like, oh, well, there is something wrong with me physically. I'm not being lazy. I know we've all done this. We all want to wear the cute knee-high boots, but unfortunately, most of us can't. And so then you kill yourself when you're, in your 20s trying to work out those calves and get your legs smaller. But she was the first one when I was doing my education that had ever even told me what lipedema is. And now every single time you bring it up to your doctor, they're like, oh, you mean lymphedema? Yeah. So, it's a struggle. I get it.
I thank you for sharing that, because you guys don't have the perspective of being the admin. And as all of our pages have grown, it's amazing how many people I'm finding more and more are finding out what it is in exactly that same way. And I would have to give more credit, if credit were due, to the therapist, the massage. I think it's more that craft of physically working hands-on with the energy. It's like me with the vibration machines. Am I a lipedema expert? No, but you know what? Actually, kind of in a way we all are, because we live and manage the symptoms of it every day. And what is an expert? It's somebody that knows a whole lot about something, really, right?
It
And
is.
doctors are very much generalists. So you can imagine, the first couple of times I'd phone these insurance companies and say, okay, So I got a gal with lipedema and she wants to buy a vibration machine. They would laugh and, you know, and it wasn't about the lipedema. It's about the vibration machine. So where our spirits are kindred, and I think why I feel so, I have other support groups. I support any medical device, and I'm a high school grad, but for me, I feel as weird with the machines as you do talking to your doctor, but you feel like I'm not the one that's supposed to be giving the education. I'm not supposed to be the one giving the answers. And you know what? I want everybody who's listening to me now or on the recording, it's time to get pissed off and empower yourself. This energy just builds and bubbles in that cauldron of your body. And then a lot of times when you do get stopped at the doctor, it comes out like you're on a bad date and you don't know how to talk. You know, if you get yourself a little script, arm yourself with a copy of the standard of care, you know, short videos. You know, sometimes I learn every day that it's not about how good of a vibration trainer or Zoom person or whatever the task is. It's how effective of a communicator I am. And I've learned as a bank manager and a mom, probably more than anything, is I'm only as good as I am in adapting how I deliver that message. So, you know, I look at my doctor, and my doctor, when I go in, is not one but 3 face masks, and she's 6 feet away from me, and she's the book across the room, and we're in a very different environment as well nowadays. So that whole connection, that feeling, that harmony of energy that we used to have, and there's awesome doctors and therapists out there, but the world has accelerated at such a pace where the amount of basic information that they have to absorb, translate, and apply in an ever-changing, you know, it's like every 3 months there's some new. Well, did you see this tinnitus vaccine now too? Like for the ringing of the ears, I didn't even hear about it. My mom was asking me the other day, and I'm like, what? Didn't you just get your, anyways, but you know, how can they be the pharmacist, the therapist? But it's frustrating because we're very limited in the political structure to a degree. They're so departmentalized. I will say, if I had to make a blanket statement, my experience is the massage therapist and the chiropractor is usually more likely to understand the terminology we're talking about today. But it's the vascular surgeons that I think are really the only ones in the States that universally can offer an actual diagnosis. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Perhaps some specialty doctors, but again, I think the big thing I've noticed since I've worked with so many of you in the States, Jen's in a completely different state than Kelly. Is it really, when I see the questions about, well, can I write this off in my insurance company, or can I deduct this? It's not just the insurance company, it's also they're dictated by your state. So sometimes if you're looking into what's paid for, what's covered, and you don't have a diagnosis, because why wait? Why wait for help? For some of the points the gals have already mentioned, if you can't tell what the theme of the call is today, no one's going to do it for you, including the research. So if I were to fast track your learning curve, look more into what is governed for lipedema in your state and understand kind of the bureaucracy side of it. Then when you talk to your insurance company, they're not going to go, well, I don't know. It's state regulated. Do you know what I mean? You already have those answers. That's a common thing when people are asking me about whether it's looking for coverage through, like, maybe you're looking for a life coaching session. You just want to get grounded and have a plan. You know, I am not a plan person. Poor Kelly, 5 minutes for, I didn't even look at my notes from last week. I'm too busy being consumed with helping and answering questions right up to the last second. Kelly and Jen are much more organized and methodical. So if you are not an organized person, get organized. There's cheat sheets out there. I find if it's on a piece of paper and I have to write it down, it commits to memory. All journal queens, put that in there. If you are, you know, I don't know that they will cover a $200 to $300 vibration machine or compressions, but you know what? They cover massage chairs. They cover exercise bikes. So do a little research into what you might call it. Do not phone an insurance company and say, do you have a code for a vibration machine? It's not
No.
a vibration machine. It's, again, back to Kelly's point, before we get on to the next part of the chat, is it depends on how you're applying it and what you're using it for. So in this group, if I had an insurance company phoning saying, not that they ever in 15 years have called and said, well, what would a vibration machine be classified as? I would call it home therapy. I would call it a low impact treadmill. I would call it a balance board. I would call it a lymphatic massage tool. If I was in my other group, my cerebral palsy with little kids group, I call it a gait trainer. I call it a stretching board. Do you sort of get where I'm going here? Hint, hint, hint. Look at what your policy covers before you make the call, and they say, okay, Brenda's looking at getting the vibrator. I see it on her file. So they have a stigma, just like they do about lipedema. Every time you go to your doctor and they correct you and call it lymphedema, say no.
Absolutely.
Right? It's the same thing with the vibration machines. So I got to check my notes here. There was a point I wanted Kelly to elaborate onto, and I rambled instead of led into it beautifully like my scripts. I can't stay to the script. I don't do the script well. I have to be it girl too, and work out here at 6 o'clock, just so all of you know, if you're looking to get your butt kicked. I'm live with Life Pro again today. Okay, as I make time instead of the timer. Medical diagnosis, treatments, and challenges in getting there. So I think we've covered that to a degree. And the big point I have in a lot of one-on-ones where people want to talk to me privately is when you don't have a diagnosis, it is hard asking for things that require a prescription. So all we're trying to do today, again, is really empower you in a lot of cases, you know, a $200 to $300 vibration machine or a compression or an infrared sauna bag sometimes is cheaper than your deductible. So instead of spending all this time campaigning doctors to get that diagnosis, or maybe even once you've got the diagnosis, finding out your plan doesn't cover something, this whole time you could be doing simple things, you know, even just listening to lives like this, to just know that you're not alone. And there's things you can do, whether you have a budget or not, to just start moving and feeling better. So I think we've more than covered food intake, which is one of the things I wanted to talk about. Activity, I'll get to a little bit later. Kelly had a couple of really good points that she wanted to talk about as well. We've had a few discussions lately, and she's going like this, I hope, about fascia health. And I know that we've spent up until now talking about, you know, with diagnosis and not with diagnosis and some of the hoops, but at the end of the day, guess what? The insides of your bodies biologically have the same parts as most people, but some of them have issues. So fascia and fascia health and understanding the fascia in particular, how it affects or inflicts, perhaps I'll say, with these conditions. I'd like Kelly to take a bite of, look at her, see? I want her to talk on this point, please. Because you explained it to me so well, and then I screwed up when I try to re-explain it to other people. So let's do it here live.
Okay. And I'm sure Jen has comments.
Jen's
too.
going too. Yeah.
I know. Okay. So one of the things I learned early on is I don't even know how I came across this whole fascia connective tissue thing. I don't even know. But I started looking into it when I had so much pain. And the fibrosis they always talk about inside your body, it's basically the same kind of structure as scar tissue, that hardening, thickening connective tissue. They've classified lipedema as a connective tissue disorder. Some of the comorbidities that we have, like Ehlers-Danlos, also a connective tissue disorder. Hypothyroid,
Yeah.
They have, in that condition, things happen with their legs that give them some of the same fibrotic tissue as what we have. So when you have a problem with your connective tissue, medically known as fascia, it can cause pain. Your fascia is supposed to like slide on each other, against each other.
Lubricated almost.
Yep.
It's lubricated, and so it's supposed to slide. If you have, this was one thing, there's a picture of what normal fat looks like. The skin, the Then there's connective tissue, then there's fat and connective tissue and muscle and connective tissue. It's all layered. It's supposed to be layers, like layers. There's a picture of a lipedema person's fat, and it looks like one of those squishy balls that my daughter has that has like the netting over it. And when you squish it, all the things pop up through the netting.
Yeah. It's like a bunch of eyeballs popping out.
Yeah. It's not supposed to look like that. But when they take the fat out of a lipedema patient, it's all in hunks. Instead, fat's not supposed to look like that. It's supposed to be smooth, right? And layered under your skin with your muscle fibers and all. It's all orderly. It's not supposed to be this chaotic thing. And so I went to a guy who was a fascia specialist. I looked up fascia release therapy in my area, and there was one guy, and his specialty is sports rehab, which matters because if you think about professional athletes, they get back to their jobs much faster than you get back to yours, and their job is much more physically demanding. The reason is because their therapists know that they have to address these soft tissues. And so the other part of that is when there's a restriction, your tissues can't move. And so if there's a restriction here and the top layer is trying to move, that jamming together, it compresses your lymph, it compresses all the blood vessels, it compresses nerves, it doesn't let things flow freely. And if there's not lymph movement and there's not circulation, why are our arms cold? Why are our thighs cold? Because there's no circulation. And if you don't have those fluids flowing in, if you don't have oxygen moving in, there's stagnation, and it causes more inflammation and more pain. And it's more sciencey than this, but that's basically it. And so if you're sitting all the time and not moving because you hurt too bad to move, then you're letting it sit there. And it gets worse. And the more you sit in the same position, you're training your connective tissue to be in that position. So if I'm sitting in my chair and my hips are too big because I have this thing and my thighs are too big, then all that lymph movement that's supposed to happen in the groin and through the abdomen and through the tops of your thighs, it's not moving. And the more it doesn't move, the thicker it gets and the more tense your tissues get and the less it moves. So you don't have to go run a marathon and you don't have to go walk 5 miles, but you need to stand up and you need to shake around and you need to try to walk around, and you can use that massage gun. Yeah. I use mine for this probably more than anything else. You can use that massage gun if you can't do anything else over your abdomen, over the tops of your thighs, across your hips. Yeah. And the vibration from the massage gun goes down into those tissues. If you can't do anything else. I have a client who was bedridden, and I said, you've got to use your massage gun. She couldn't do anything. We tend to go, you got to move, you got to move, you got to exercise, you got to do all these things. Some people with this condition cannot. They're at a point where they cannot.
Many with this condition have days that can relate, you know, maybe it's not an all the time thing, but you know, Kelly and Jen, you know, I mean, you still got to get up, and you're the girl. You still have to get up and do it. That's right.
Everyone,
for that reason.
The other thing is, even if you're in bed,
yeah,
you can rub down your whatever you can reach. Yeah. It doesn't have to be official manual lymphatic drainage.
No.
Is that great? But that is great.
You can rub your arm.
Yeah. When you move, lymph moves. And what I will say about I had this question just yesterday from a very elderly client that probably has about 8 to 10% of grip strength left in her hands. She, you know, even if you can't hold the damn gun, lay it on your stomach, turn it on to, I'll get into tips of how, but you just by hanging on to it or placing your hands on it while it's on you, I guarantee you, if you did this 2 to 3 times a day for a couple minutes, within a week, your grips, if we have to go all the way to even giving you the strength to pick it up to do it, it's that effective. I had to add that.
The other thing I'll say before I let Jen, because she probably has more specific knowledge than I do. I want people to start thinking about why they have the pain they have, because your whole self does not hurt because of lipedema. And I know that's what people say, but I'm going to just disagree, because it's not true. If I eat what I know I'm supposed to eat, I don't have certain pain. If I eat corn for a meal and the next day I eat a corn tortilla and then the next day I munch on some chips, I have pain that I used to think was lipedema pain. And that's just an example. And I'm not saying no one can eat corn, because if you've been in our group at all, you've got to figure out for yourself which foods are causing those issues for you. Yep. But if you're eating things that raise your inflammation, you're going to have more pain because your body's reacting to those things. And so you've got to get that you've got to get your food under control. And I don't do cheat days, because if you do a cheat day once a week and your inflammation goes through the roof, and you'll say, well, that'll be fine, it's just one day. It takes 4 or 5 days to resolve that. You have one maybe good day, then it's your cheat day.
Yeah. You're
not getting out of the inflammation cycle. And so hydrate, but if you increase hydration, you need to research electrolytes. Because if you just pour water in, it gives you an imbalance. So along with your nutrition, you've got to get that, you've got to give nourishment to your fascia. Your connective tissue can't function if you're malnourished and if you're eating the wrong things and your inflammation is increasing. And so it all works together. And whether you have a diagnosis or not, you can eat healthy, drink water, and breathe deeply, and do some of these easy things that people do.
Well, and just before we go to Jen, I'll add on the food. Before I knew lipedema, I'm still fitness trainer. I still do other things, and food is your fuel. Food is what you are. And I don't want to sound like my mom. We are what we eat, but it really is true. And, whether I wish I was as diligent as these two women. When I don't eat well, it shows in my face in the form of detoxification. I have worse acne at 40, 50 than I ever did in my teens. So, but what I do know, and what I've learned, I know I have lacking discipline in many areas of my life, but at least if you spend some time identifying, as Kelly said, what those triggers are, at least you can, I hate to say, plan your life around it. So if you are going to be going to a wedding and you're going to be having the cake, at least you know what that week may look like. Don't plan, a whole week worth of interviews. So if you are, if you learn about the food, at least to understand what maybe some of the triggers are, it will help you gauge, oh, that's why I felt like crap today, or that's why I swelled up 11 pounds. At least you can stop blaming your damn self for some of these things and know it's associated with the food choices. Whether, you know what I mean? You still got to live. But if you're going to live and have, if you're going to have the schmorg, at least you can plan your life accordingly and give yourself that recovery time. And the same, I get the same questions with weight loss and toning and all the, no offense, all the type 1s and all my teenagers getting ready for grad right now. Just because they don't have lipedema, you think you're going to get into that grad dress that was too small when you bought it 2 months ago by continuing to eat the same way that you are. So whatever the goal or condition is, food, I'm going to say it, is 70 to 80% of it all. It truly is. To Jen's, back to fascia, and this supports all that. So,
so as a massage therapist, and I come across a ton of women, that is the majority of my clientele. And we just have all these aches and pains. And then I hear the next word of their mouth, but I can't walk. It'll hurt my knees, but I can't do this. First of all, back to what Kelly said about hydration. Do we know what dehydration causes? Dehydration causes swelling. Dehydration causes pain in our joints, where we always have pain anyway, and we already have to worry about swelling. And I tell a lot of I am a lymphatic therapist, so I see a ton of lymph people, and they always tell me, well, you know, at the end of my day, my feet are swollen because I've sat at the desk all day long and I haven't done anything. Well, you have to get up to take a pee break. I'm just saying, you do. So just think about that and just move a little bit. Walk around the office. If you're working from home, walk around the house a little bit. We've got to move. We've got to watch that nutrition. We've got to eat. Movement is a big, big, huge thing. Like Kelly said, if you're bound to that chair, you're bound to that bed. Any little movement. I have, ladies, a client that I see every week. She is 100 years old. She's the most precious thing. I love her to death. But every time I see her, you know what she wants to tell me is, well, what I got up today to go to the bathroom because I'm drinking that water you're telling me to drink. And she's moving extra. If 100-year-old lady can scoot her little walker to her bedroom and her kitchen while she's up for the bathroom, then we just need to make a conscious effort. I do a workout in a hot sauna. It's called Hot Works, and it's infrared heat. And I love it. It makes my joints and my entire body feel so good. And if I don't do it for 3 or 4 days because my schedule is crazy, then I am just like, I know I told my husband, I'm like, I have to go work out today. I have to. So movement is a huge part. We've got to put that into our daily routine. And I'm not talking about going from your couch, go run a 5K. I'm not talking about, you know, going out in your neighborhood and even walking 10 blocks, just moving. Swimming is a big thing. And here in Arkansas, it's getting warm. So that is a big thing. And I tell my people all the time, go swim. And I don't mean like swim. I mean, just get in the pool and walk around. The effect that has on our lymphatic system is, don't kill me, Deb, but the effect that swimming has on our lymphatic system is just as good as the effect that standing on that vibration plate for 10 minutes has on us. Because the water, believe it or not, just moving our arms in the water, our legs in the water, is going to stimulate our lymphatic system. And just like Kelly said, just taking a deep breath, and get off of the scales. I see so many of you guys out there with the scales. Ditch your scales.
Yeah. And calorie counting too, if we're going to go there.
Yeah, let's not do it. The biggest thing that I've had to get in my head is, like Kelly said, with the corn. I don't do well with corn either. But I love tacos. And I'm going to eat some tacos. I'm not giving up my tacos. But you just have to find yourself. And this kind of goes all back about, you know, just being undiagnosed. We have to figure out what works best for our body. And I have just discovered, because I have started myself on a journey of giving up sugar. And wow, like I did so good for like 5 days. Y'all, I'm telling you, I cannot put my feet up on, you know how you put your feet on the coffee table when you're lounging? I couldn't do that because it hurt the back of my calves so much. I can do it. it hurt to put my compression on and take them off down in my ankles because I have ankles. And being without that sugar has completely, I'm just like, oh wow, this doesn't hurt. I mean, yes, I still have pain, but it's not excruciating to put these things off and on. It's really is so much about just move and figure out what makes your body tick.
I'm going to add one to the inflammation category, because you've kind of both very eloquently, which of course sugar is big time. And one thing I've learned from both of your posts and interaction with the group is sometimes you got to know what sugar is. It's not always just white thing in a jar. You know, it's sometimes it's understanding the process of what this converts to in your body. You know, I was and sugar is, again, not just a lipedema thing. I'm trying to make you guys feel more like the rest of the world, but sugar's bad for everybody. It's battery fuel for your body. It makes you acidic, and everything exists in an acidic environment. Okay, if you're alkaline, if you know that's really, that's not a disease-friendly environment, and sugar is the easiest way to peak that balance. I don't know if any of you do pH test stripping and things like that, but Jen, that would be a very interesting. You'd probably notice a big swing in your pH levels by cutting out the sugar, like within a day. It's quite a dramatic. It's always cool to have the visual, right? To physically see that. And knowing this is what's cool about identifying one source. Sometimes with food, it's like exercise. If you start a whole bunch of new, or you take out a whole bunch of, it's hard to identify in a singular basis what might have been the cause or what might have been a good treatment. You know, so there was, let's say there was a sale at Life Pro and you bought a gun and a plate and you went and saw Jen for massage, and then you did some counseling with Kelly and you've implemented this all in a week, and then Monday you can't get out of bed. Well, the machine always gets blamed first. I'll say that, but you know, don't start a whole bunch of new, or don't take out a whole bunch of new. Use it as a process of identifying. And this sometimes changes over life too. You know, what didn't bug you at 30 might kick your ass at 60, but you know, try experimenting. I would say with food, correct me if I'm wrong, but a good 3-4 day, you know, major reduction or elimination, if you can, of, you know, maybe things that you're ingesting regularly. Like I'm 7-8 coffees a day. You all see me in my lives. That is my, I'll fight you. But it is, I know that I shouldn't be getting a headache at 2 in the afternoon because I decided to skip a coffee. So a lot of times there's things in the back of our minds we know, and we will also use this condition when you do have a diagnosis. Excuse isn't the word, but it's a justification. So I can justify, you know, the lipedema pain, but did I contribute to it or did I make it worse? You know, and that's my, just like overdoing it on the machine. I know it feels so good at the time. It tastes as good as that chocolate cake, but there's a reason I say, just try it for a couple, 3 minutes. Have a bite. Don't have 3/4 of the cake. You know, there's moderation. So that was my 2 cents. I did want to add about inflammation. Before we get in, I want to talk about types of lipedema. I hate putting labels on, but I know a lot of you are joining me going today, oh my God, what type do I have? I wonder. There is no prize at the end. It's and this is one of those things with the types that are different. I get in shit saying it this way, and then it's right over here, and I think the research people are also trying to change simply to make the research more alignable with each other, if that's a word. But very briefly on inflammation, I am the tech lady. And everything that I have plugs into the wall, and it's all electricity driven. But a lot of my health struggles and my empowerment and my own understanding about inflammation became understanding that our love affair with our devices, these things emit electrical fields. And I'm not going to say other words on camera, but you know, if you're a tech junkie and you like having your devices on all the time, you know, try to just be a little mindful of proximity. Don't have your laptop on your desk for 7-8 hours, or on your lap for 7-8 hours. It's getting hot for a reason. You know, in my cerebral palsy group, and you know what, I do want to scare some of you. I don't want to be nice anymore. I don't want to see any more tumors that are shaped in a square fashion. Okay. And I get pictures daily, and it's not on ladies with lipedema. It's on my 5 and 6-year-olds. So understand there are other toxins referred to as environmental pollutants, and just be mindful. If you're doing all the right things and you're leading that example, and you're still in that state, try just giving your body some downtime or a little bit of space. If you can't find your cell phone and you're freaking out after 10 minutes, you might need a little bit of digital detox as well. That's just my 2 cents. And that was on my brain because we sure got into a fight this morning over Deandra not getting the iPad during my live today. So maybe some of the moms can identify with that. But it does contribute. It changes your blood to a positive charge. So this kind of relates back to pH levels, your body and the blood and the fluid flowing through it. Your body is a negative charge. We're electrical beings. And there's certain influences like sugar, like things that fly through the air wirelessly, that change that charge of our blood into more of a positive state, where the blood starts coagulating. We start getting thick lymph and thick blood. You know, so if your symptoms are increasing, maybe it's something as simple as you've just had your phone in your back pocket all day. So just something in complement to the food I wanted, and the inflammation, to point out. But I do want to take a bit of a tangent to types. Again, we've got 2 people here, one diagnosed, one not diagnosed, but what is a diagnosis? The first time I met Dr. Herbst, I totally put my foot in my mouth and I said it. I said, oh, lymphedema. Oh yeah, I've heard about it. And I thought she was going to clock me. But at that time, I was explained there's 4 stages, and then there's codes, and then but it depends again on where you live in the globe. Sometimes there's different terminology. But so know that anything coming out of these 2 ladies' mouths as far as an official type, it's a term out there. It's not the Bible, but just other things that might make sense in what you've come across or what you might be seeking in some of your research. So I'm gonna, Kelly, do you mind, and maybe align it with your page, because that's where I refer so many. Are we still looking at 4 basic types? Is that correct? Or is it 3
It's
now?
confusing because they separate stages and types.
See,
And-
I'm still wrong. I'm still wrong. So go ahead.
And it does depend where you are.
Okay.
I believe like the US standard of care has done 3 stages now, but over in Europe, they're still doing 4. Sometimes I've even seen 5 stages, and stages, it more speaks to progression, or like how severely your tissues are affected. So in the US, it's usually 3 stages. But still in the US, I hear people saying 4.
Okay.
I don't know how helpful that really is. From
That's why I'm making you talk about it, because
I know.
it's not.
Okay, so from my personal experience, I had a client who would be like far stage 4, if you want to do 4. If there was a 5, it would have been 5, right? And I've never progressed past like 2. If we're doing our medical, here's what stage you're in. But our pain was very similar. And part of my frustration with all of this is they, whoever they are in this discussion, will say, if you let this progress, and they dump it on you, if you let this progress, you will have pain. You will have worse fibrotic tissue. You will develop lymphedema. Way over there, when you get to stage 3.5, you'll have these things. I had enormous amounts of pain, and my lymphedema and lipedema have progressed together. I didn't get to the worst stage and then got lymphedema. I never got to that stage, but I have lymphedema too.
what is your, I never pronounce it right. Yours is the
lipolymphedema.
yes.
So
Another name to confuse,
another
try to
name.
figure out what you have.
And the other thing is they want to dissect your body and say, you have this type or this type or this type. If it exists in your arms, it's this type. If it exists from your hips to your ankles, it's this type. If it's only in your calves, it's this type. And my thing is, what if it's in your arms and your hips and your thighs and your calves and your abdomen where there's not really any type that includes that because it's not supposed to be included? And then it's also like up here on the side of your boob. I mean, what type is that where it's up here? What type is it when it's in your chest right here where it's not? Because if it's up here, that's not technically lipedema, but it is. I can feel nodules in my chest. And I went to a lymphedema therapist because I was required to go to her to make sure I really have what I help other women with. And she said, you have both conditions everywhere except like your scalp. It's through my neck. That's not a lipedema area, by the way, but it is. And so I think we get caught up in, we want a label from a doctor and we want the doctor to say, yes, you have it. I'm putting it on the paper. And honestly, I had a doctor put it on the paper because I said, this is what I have, and I need you to write it on the paper so I can get my pump.
What's his number?
He's not seeing patients anymore.
Yes. And
so
that's the downside when you do sometimes find a good one. I don't really have a policy. I just want to point this out. I don't expect somebody to put their doctor's name and phone number on a group with 10,000 other women. Okay.
So that's my take on types and stages. It varies. You can have it one place or the other. And it's almost like if you don't have that classic shape and a ring around your ankles where it's dramatically different, people are going to say, you don't have that because you don't have that shape, even though the literature is out there. And so I tend to more talk to women about, I mean, my daughter's 8 and she can recognize lipedema.
Same.
You know, like Jen was saying, her husband can recognize it. My husband can too. And I give him crap like, you're looking at women's butts at the grocery store. And he's like, because I feel bad for them. Like, they don't know. And he's like, I can't go say, I'm looking at your butt and I really think you have this. But he's like, I know they do. My daughter can look at someone's arms and she knows that it looks different. And so I think that us categorizing people and excluding these people and including these people and saying when no one has looked at or touched your personal tissues, who knows how to evaluate this, you can't have that. That's not part of lipedema. That's not part of lymphedema. They measured me for 20 minutes trying to get at least a 1 centimeter difference between my right side and my left side. So insurance would say I have lymphedema.
Well, and you know what?
And it's ridiculous.
It's kind of like going for your first mammogram. You know, it's just humiliating. What, right? So I think, thank you for raising the last point. I mean, even though, again, we've got 2 people, I don't know the way they're showing on your camera, but Kelly has the paper. Jen never had the paper, kind of knew early on and really owned the research, but I can't say at the end of the day, the big difference in their care compared to, you know, everyone else out there is the self-care. I hate that word because it's become such a word, but it really is true. It's just, you know, I love like learning how to read blood tests, and because if I don't want to have to rely on anyone to understand, if it's about you and it's about decisions for you, no one should understand better than you. And we have posts all the time in the group about, you know, no one understands the condition better than you, then you're the one living with it. So absolutely, to Kelly's point, I've seen gals with technical stage 1 that are in debilitating pain and they're like size 4 supermodels. I've seen ladies that have been over 500 pounds and they don't feel a thing. So symptoms are like with lipedema, Parkinson's disease, cerebral palsy, I don't care. Symptoms are universal. And that's why I think in the world we live in, it should be symptom care, it shouldn't be driven by the condition. The only reason it's driven by the condition and it has to have a name is so there could be a billing code attached to it, which is why we're here today. So Jen lives in the world. She can't tap into billing codes any more than I can, because I don't really have a diagnosis that gets me access to certain things. So do you really feel, she said this earlier, but are there other types we haven't mentioned, or some common things or points you want to contribute to what Kelly said on the types and that whole mentality?
Well, absolutely, because I come across so many different types, if that's what you want to call it.
Yeah.
Because I am physically touching these bodies and I feel the fibrotic tissue, I feel the lipomas, I feel all the stuff that's going on in their body, plus I hear their symptoms. And as a massage therapist, all I can say is, have you ever wondered why, your legs look like and feel like they do, or why your arms look and feel like they do? Because I can't diagnose anybody. And then even if I could tell them, who am I going to send them to? All I can do is talk to them and tell them, hey, I have a similar thing. This is what I'm doing to try to help myself. But yeah, as far as the types, I mean,
they're all over.
They are. And I have the bilateral trunk-like legs with the cankles, with, the cuff at my ankle. I have that. You look at a picture, I would say I'm probably stage 2. But yet I have a client who has little bird-like little ankles until you see her thighs. And then she has it in her abdomen, she has it in her chest, and she has it in her arms. She totally looks different than me, but our symptoms are very similar.
That's a valid point. And there's nothing more I can imagine, someone dealing with this. There's nothing more validating than just knowing it's not just you.
Yeah.
We live in a society that, to Kelly's point earlier, to back yours up, it's your fault. It's what you do about it, what you don't. But, as I said earlier, before you actually joined the call, you didn't know yesterday what you do today, or you do now. And that's the beauty about being curious, because it's all about being curious. I think the big point I see here from the outsider's perspective, that's, trying to somewhat find the scientific answer in a lot of cases, because I am answering to the medical community. But the reality is, there's never 100% accurate, perfect diagnosis, even if you do get one. But it boils back down again to, what are those symptoms? Maybe for you, it's swelling. Maybe, you're seeing it in the neck. And just because all the literature you read out there to date says it can't be this, well, at some point, somebody had to establish all that information and didn't know that at the time. So, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Kim's not here with us today. Kim has Derkham's disease. I've never seen, I remember asking her one time, I'm like, can you get the lymphomas on your head? Like, can you? And I mean, right, like within 30 seconds off Facebook, she's like showing me about 8 of them. And she was told, a lot of them were told, you can't develop it on the head. It's got to be something else. Well, I don't know. And I mean, for those of you that have hundreds elsewhere in your body, is it even logical to, just because, the standard of care says that this is where it's going to go and that's where it should be, doesn't mean that's how it's presenting on your body. Why? Because of the fascia and the food and all the, there's a million reasons, and you can spend all your time and energy trying to figure out how we got into this situation and find someone to blame. But certainly don't blame yourself. Don't blame your doctor. Don't blame, blame needs to be placed, but take that piss off and that energy and put it into just trying something. And the reason I I say that as many of the things we'll get to here. I don't want to keep you guys all day, but many of you have things in the house already. You haven't been on this journey without trying a thing or two. And sometimes you just didn't know how to use it this way or that way, or maybe your situation's changed. So please don't give up on money you've already spent. You know, I'm not here to sell everybody a vibration machine or a massage gun, but I should have done a survey on this, but I would bet probably 80% of the people that land on my page with lipedema diagnosis or suspect already own a vibration machine or a massage gun, and you just either hurt yourself and stopped using it, overdid it, whatever, or you haven't even taken it out of the box. I get so much of that. And you know what? That's cool. I get it, because you're on this journey that you've tried so many things and you've had so many disappointments, and they still say it's you, even though you try and all these things and do what they tell you, pills or whatever. So please stop beating yourself up. And if you need to get pissed off, that's what the group is for. I'm always an open page for you guys. You know that we get well off topic a lot of days. So
Hey, Deb, can I ask Jen to address something real quick? Just
Sure.
because she hit up on it. It's a question that I've talked to you about, but she talked about using heat and working out in heat. And one of the things I've been frustrated about, more so over the past few months, because I've researched more into it, is that people with lipedema are told that they are absolutely forbidden to do anything that has any heat. You're not supposed to get in a hot tub for 1 second. You're not supposed to ever take a hot shower, a hot bath, nothing. And I understand the reasoning to a degree, and I do, but I would really like to hear what Jen has to say, because she has more knowledge of the body. Some of the things I've learned are we need heat to move things in our bodies. Inflammation is a normal response to increased circulation and increased lymph. Not chronic inflammation is not a normal response, but there will be a little inflammation. And people are terrified to know that they might increase inflammation a little bit. Personally, heat helps me. I have Ehlers-Danlos too, and it helps my joints stay in place because it relaxes all the tissue around the joints.
Yeah.
And so is there maybe a little increase in inflammation? Maybe so. But when you work out, there's an increase in inflammation.
Absolutely.
When you don't get enough sleep, there's an increase in inflammation. When you have to cook a big meal for your family and you stand up too long, there's a small increase in inflammation. And so for me, the heat has been worth the maybe small increase in inflammation, but I also know it relaxes me, which decreases inflammation. And so if Jen could maybe speak to that whole thing, because I believe there are some myths. And the other thing I believe is you need to find out if it works for you.
Yes, that is the number one thing. So I have lipedema. I do not have lymphedema. And the reasoning behind when you have lymphedema, they tell you no super hot, no super cold. I think where it gets broke down, in my opinion, is no extreme hot, no extreme cold.
Yeah.
So extreme. Because our body's the mechanism, when we get extremely hot, then we will sweat in order to cool our bodies down, which increases inflammation. It increases lymph flow. The opposite being when we get super cold, we shiver, and it causes our core temperature to rise, increasing inflammation, increasing lymphatic flow. I believe that it is totally a person to person basis. You're gonna have to experiment with it. Is it something that's going to help you, or is it going to hurt you? And when I say experiment, you don't need to do it one time and quit because it made you swell. If I am completely sedentary and I go outside and I take a walk, I'm going to swell. You really need to give it a chance and see how your body responds to it. My body loves the heat. It helps my joints. It makes me feel so much better. It increases my mobility.
Were you good right away, or did you have, you know, a bit of a up and down before you got into a groove, or was it good for you early on?
No, it definitely took a little bit. My body had to really just adjust to it. I had some ups and downs, and I had a ton of days in the beginning where I would just ache so bad after my workout, but I figured out why. It's just a personal thing. I have to work out this much. If I work out this much, it kills my body. If I work out this much, it kills my body. So I have to work out this much. But that's for me. And even with the leg pumps that I got from Life Pro, so your pneumatic pump, that took me a while too, because it increases circulation. And so for the first couple of times I was like, I am not doing this. Like, my legs are ginormous. No, what the heck, you know? But it took some getting used to. But the heat, definitely, I feel like it is a myth. You have to get in there and figure out what your body is going to do, how it's going to respond, and give it a second.
Yeah.
Now, if you are suffering from lymphedema due to a surgery, an injury, cancer treatment, I would definitely say you really need to watch that. And that is because we know that those lymphatic vessels and those nodes have either been removed or obliterated due to chemotherapy or radiation therapy or surgery. Ours are definitely constricted because of our connective tissue. So it's definitely a personal thing. You really just have to figure it out. Yeah. So be like Kelly and try it. The heat may be what you need.
I would say I have probably taken more grief and feedback since I have started talking about infrared saunas than I have even vibration machines. And it's kind of how I found out about the heat stigma. And it's called a tautology. Tautology is, you know, boys will be boys, or you hear something often enough and it becomes a well-known fact, but you never really looked into it. So I looked into it, and how I looked into it, again, I knocked on the door of my guinea pigs, one of them not being here, Kelly and Jen. And at the end of the day, when I got into infrared saunas and light therapies and many of the tools I'm playing with, they were $20,000, $30,000 medical devices. So, you know, I don't love the whole Amazon environment, but the good news is of this mass consumerism of wellness products, you can get into things fairly affordably. And Kim was probably my first guinea pig with the infrared saunas, because nothing works for Kim. She's kind of like Kelly, but she's got Durkheim's and other things that are more obtuse, if you will. And it was the nodules. And she thought I was crazy, but like a good sport, she tried it out, and it really, what Kim has found with infrared heat is different than, you know, I had a guy say to me the other day, well, you know, it's just like going out in the sun. Well, no, it's not just like going out in the sun, which we all need to do more of. That's something else that bad tanning marketing campaigns. We need the sun. We're like a plant. It does things for our biology. But what infrared saunas are, they are a very small spectrum within that spectrum of light, the invisible rays. They're kind of more what that heat that you'd feel in the shade on a hot day, or in Canada where it's really cold and the sun's out and you get in your car and it's like 15 degrees warmer in the car than it was outside. Infrared is the penetrating. Red light is the skin surface. Red light can be warm, But when I talk about heat, I'm more referring to the infrared. Infrared penetrates, it goes a couple, 3 inches. That's what's relieving the joint pain. And when it, oh, I'm so glad. I love you guys for bringing this up because it segues perfectly. Inflammation, the more I read, I'm very alternative health because I've done big vibrators for 15 years. I've heard it all. I've been insulted in more ways than most have heard, but it's what people couple with these vibration machines. In the medical world, a vibration machine is a catalyst, and it better prepares your body for whatever Kelly or Jen might do to it next. Or if you watch my next session at 6 today, it's about, using it for recovery after a workout. So if you're thinking of experimenting with heat, the best way I would suggest is to seek infrared, not a steam sauna. Don't go lay at the beach for 4 days just because Debbie said to try the heat. Do it towards the end of your day. Inflammation is how our body heals. When you have pus in a wound, when you have swelling in a joint, when you throw up, when you've had too many cocktails at a bachelorette party like I did last weekend, your body is expelling toxins. And the reason we get a fever when we get sick is our body needs to elevate and regulate our body temperature to do its function. So inflammation, to Kelly and Jen's point, I believe short term, there's a lot of pills out there that fight these things. So that's why it's hard to sometimes get to the right information and even a definition. But I believe, in my experience, that it's your body going through a healing process. It's just something it's got to go through. So guess what? If you're dying the first week, I'll relate it to this. My vibration machine is so itchy. For those of you that have stuck with it for 2 weeks, it always gets better. If you can suck it up and stick with it. Same with swelling, same with pain. But a lot of times you get so spooked or have such a horrible first experience, you don't revisit it. So what I encourage you with the heat thing, maybe it didn't work 20 years ago. Maybe your first sauna was an hour and a half and you did it at 8 in the morning when you still had to function throughout your day. If you are going to try it, leave it later in the day. Saunas in particular are synonymous with detoxification. So yeah, you're going to sweat. You're probably going to be a little stinky and you're probably going to be a little tired and lethargic. So I deal with a lot of recovery heart issues these days, way more than I would like to. I'm actually dealing with 2 clients that have heart replacements. No, I can't show you a study of where a vibration machine was used with heart transplant patients, but common sense tells me, we lack energy. This oxygenates the blood. Vibration machines are the best thing for anything cardio because you don't have energy and it gives it to you. But it's very minimal, just like the heat. Cardio can kind of be falsely boosted in a sauna. So for those of you that are looking to improve heart health, lose weight, all these things that require huffing and puffing and you just can't, that's where heat sometimes can be the hack. And I do recommend at least revisiting or doing a little bit more research. See if you've got a wellness center or someone, a lot of times chiropractors, places that will have a sauna where you could maybe go try a session, but don't do the full 30 minutes.
No.
And what I recommend, I don't know if anybody's got a sauna. I have about 8 of them now. Look behind me. This is my next session. It's the lay down. I did not know this. I'm going to look ugly. I learned that when you're doing a sauna or doing heat, you should put a hat on, not to be warmer. But if you ever go camping and it's really, really cold, you put a toque on your kid to keep them warm. So the heat's not escaping out the head. Maybe that's just a Canada thing. But if you look in Europe in the really cold places where they do lots of saunas, they wear these hats. And it, instead of all the heat from the body escaping the head, it better regulates the temperature. You sweat more evenly, I guess, if it comes on sooner. So, maybe you just didn't have a goofy hat. So yeah, let something cotton, try that, especially if you're using a lay down or the blanket where your head is out. If you're in the box style sauna, your head and your face are in, but I did one with this on yesterday and I didn't feel my flashes so bad yesterday afternoon. So just for that reason, it's worth trying. I want to get back to one more point that I had under heat. I totally bombed that show there again with my ramble. Oh, so yes, inflammation. I'm not trying to be a doctor, not trying to discount what anyone said, but in my experience with these machines, like Kelly's point, exercise brings on inflammation. The vibration machine just gets more done in less time. So my clients do experience inflammation. And I think the reason they do is they're getting more capacity of exercise done in shorter periods with less impact, less, effect on the joints. You can get those muscles and the fascia to a level of activity that you couldn't maybe walking around the block. And to Jen's point, I wanted to come back to this because she cringed when she brought up the pool. Why is the pool so amazing? And what does it have in common with a vibration plate? Does anyone have a question or an answer? Nope. They're both hypergravitational environments. Let me explain. A vibration plate increases your body's exposure to gravity, making weight bearing and all those things. We're exercising the muscles quicker and harder with less pain and effort. In the pool, we are reducing our bodies. We're lightening ourselves. There's, $100,000 treadmills out there for these things. Why use them? Go to the pool. So where you are in a recovery situation and Debbie doesn't want you standing on your vibration machine, or if you were looking at a great complement to your machine where you do deal with lots of inflammation, or, I've got, forget lymphedema, if you're dealing with intricate spine issues, you do have there's nobody here that doesn't have something else to a degree wrong with them, whether it's an old sports injury or just sitting here listening to me too long. So the combination, I think the best two things to combine, if you were to pick two, would be the use of a vibration plate in complement with your pool activity, just because, one's countering the effects and getting that lymph going. They both do that. But when you are dealing with severe pain and you want to get weight bearing, full body, it's kind of the in between at the pool. You can weight bear there before you might be able to on the machine. On the machine, I might have you be seated. I had a lady this morning very upset. She did not want to sit. And I said, well, then don't. And she goes, well, no, I just had my hip replaced. And I'm like, well, then you shouldn't. She goes, but I want to. There, you do have to adhere, if you've had bones healed, and give yourself recovery time. But the pool you could probably return to sooner. So they're just both hyper gravitational environments. Use that one on your doctor next time you're there.
The pool, ladies, when you go to your pool, please, I don't want to wear a swimsuit. Oh my goodness. Don't. Put your leggings on, put your t-shirt on and go. Because I know we're all so self-conscious about our legs, and I hear that excuse a lot. And at my hometown gym, it's at a hospital in their workout facility. It's a therapy pool. Leggings and a dry fit shirt. Don't worry about what your legs look like.
That's an awesome idea. Awesome idea. Sometimes when you hear something like this, it's like, why didn't I think of that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because you've put yourself down so many times in so many ways that we don't look at the simple solutions. So thank you. I remember when I first started with the red lights, they have these big Velcro belts for the larger women, so I could extend the belt to fit around. And I said, no, I'm not doing it. We wear lipo pants. And I remember the supplier saying to me, what the hell are lipo pants? Oh, they're just our regular pants, and we just tuck the lights in. I'm not going to sit there and humiliate you and put up 4 pieces of Velcro, which are uncomfortable and rub and add to the heat. We just tucked them in our spandex pants. So everybody they were just black Walmart leggings. Go with what's comfortable. I don't think you're going to find anyone ever at the pool going to stop you and say, you can't do that.
Nope.
They do, then go to another damn gym.
That's right.
I'm looking at the clock. I did want to get into a major ramble about vibration machines, but there's like this whole page where I've probably done a few videos about how to get started on one. I think I'm going to shorten up because I do have to kick some ass here in 20 minutes on another live. If you're not using one and you came today because you're afraid, or you came today because you've been looking at it and you've dusted it more times than your feet have cleaned it off in the last month or two, it's summer and I get it. You tend to be doing more things. You tend to be doing different things. For those existing users, don't beat yourself up because you didn't do your workout and Debbie posted her Monday check-in and I'm just not going to answer this week. Do something that complements what you're doing. So Jen is working and Jen looks like this all day long. So Jen should get on the machine and do that for a minute or two between clients. Maybe you're in the garden. Maybe you're beating your child to wake them up in the morning to get to their exam like I was. Deidre was so tired. We're a 10 o'clock household since I started homeschool because I did a call with another group in Sri Lanka till 2 in the morning last night. That's why I look so wet and curly. But before we went to the exam this morning, I had her 2 minutes on the plate. I cranked it right up and I said, just shake it away. And she wasn't hungry. I didn't want to send her to an exam with no food. And as soon as she got off the plate in the car, Mom, I think I'll have my snack now. Yes. So it's always the right thing to move. When you move, lymph moves. A vibration machine is just something I happen to know a lot about. And when I put lipedema with it, I felt not like I have an obligation, but I finally found an audience that would listen to my awful ramblings and benefit from it. You know, I've had some pretty good audience time with some pretty big doctors in my day, and I have been thrown out of more children's hospitals than most people can probably attest to. But I'm not a doctor. I don't have a diagnosis. And I show neurosurgeons how to rehab 2 months old on these things. What are you afraid of? So you might be a little sore tomorrow. You'll probably pee a little bit more than usual. That's a common thing, maybe a little bit of wind, but it will get better. I don't want to be your next disappointment. I don't want to be the next thing that doesn't work. Whether it's a gun, whether it's lights, I just happen to have a lot of background because I've spent my whole life experimenting as a business. And for those that didn't know, I used to be quite the linebacker. Like I used to be 210 pounds and I had a bad knee. And at 35, I had some doctors say, well, you're just fat and old and you need to get a knee replacement. Really? And then what in 10 years? Like this, you know, so I didn't get a diagnosis. I didn't gain 300 pounds, but I was told that surgery was my only option. And that's when I got thrown out of there too, but that's when my whole pursuit of this can't be my only option. Everybody lives in this world in Canada. Everybody thinks we have all this free healthcare. Absolutely. We have free healthcare if I'm willing to take the treatment that's covered by the code. What if I don't? What if I want to cook herbs? What if I want to buy an infrared sauna blanket? No, I have to go for surgery and I have to take medications for the rest of my life. And for me, that wasn't an option. And then as other people like you came into my life, I got all this courage. And all I want to be for you guys is that voice that you've run out of. Because I've been doing this 15 years and I have the energy and I have the drive and my day is usually only dictated by how much coffee I do or do not get. So I'm happy to fight for any one of you. And if that means I'm on a Zoom call with your doctor, I am. And it's simply because you guys are as receptive to my teaching as I am to talking and giving it to you. So it doesn't matter what the name on the page is or what the label is on your forehead. Empower yourself with knowledge. And if you know, the biggest thing I hear is I don't have the time to watch your video. I don't have the time to watch 5 minutes. I'm a busy mom. I got kids, whatever it is, you know, it's almost like a trauma response. We have a relationship with our illnesses, you know, unless you're marrying them, putting them a ring on the finger and they're coming with a good dowry, stop giving it all your power. You know, my trauma, my pain, you know, it's not you. It doesn't define who you are. Okay. It's just something you're going through that happens to be, you know, it's one of those silent things that people just can't, you know, because you're not bleeding out of every orifice in your body and walking around on crutches, you mustn't be suffering. And I know that you are. I don't know why. I know I can see it in your eyes. And over the years on the machine for me is a diagnostic tool, because 10 years ago, how do you think that fat shaking on the machines looked compared to the other fat? Even then, I knew it didn't even shake the same. It didn't look the same. You guys always pee more. You know, there were signs then, but I didn't know yesterday what I do today. So I haven't lost Veronica. I've still got Lori, Cynthia, Jenna, Alicia, and Mary Liz. I want to ask Kelly and Jennifer if they had any last points that I didn't just bulldoze over, that you wanted to mention. And if not, I want to give you guys a chance to be the celebrity and ask your questions to these lovely ladies here. If you have something that we haven't slapped you upside the face with already.
I just want to say one thing.
Mm-hmm.
The question that we always get is, which diet do I follow? What is the protocol for fill in the blank? Because I do cupping, I do the massage gun, I do all these things. What is the protocol? What is the nutrition plan? And the answer is, you need to figure that out. I don't know what your plan is. I don't know how this massage gun is going to help you the best. I don't know how this vibration plate is going to help you the best. I don't know if this food is going to be best for you. So you have to have the courage to try. Whether a doctor has given you like a nice check mark on that tool or not, or, you know, whether someone else decides that's for them, or they say it's a complete and total waste of time and money. None of that matters except, what works for you. And you will not know if you don't try. Because if I had only done what people told me to do, I would be where I was, where my 3-year-old daughter couldn't lean against me to read a book. And no one should be there at that place, whatever that place is for you.
That's where the mental health really suffers. I know we've talked very much about physical things today, but let's face it, when you feel like crap all the time and you're in pain, you know, the mental, that's why we don't eat what we're supposed to and we don't get off the couch. It's the mental game. A lot of, you know, you're defeated. And again, you know, there's been a lot of dead ends in your journey. But to Kelly's point, I just want to add one little extension off that. You've got to try it, but what will be the best investment of your time from today forward is the resources are out there. I'm happy, as well as Jen and Kelly are happy to point you in the right direction, but I can't watch it for you and I can't make you do it. I can't. You know, I can challenge you and I can poke you in my fun little ways. And, you know, some of you take me up on it. And again, it's about being curious. And if you're curious, and I think sometimes when you watch some of these cheesy little videos that we do with just even within our own personal stuff, there's an idea there or an approach that maybe you didn't know about or a way you didn't try it. Totally not related. I'm going to bring up a supplement, serapeptase. Many of you take it for eating of scar tissue. And I remember that when I first met Dr. Herbst, she was showing me, she had a jigsaw. For those of you that know what jigsaws are for carpentry, that thing that your men cut wood with. And she had rigged up a racquetball on the end of the piston. And she's like, I got to show you this thing. And she comes at me with this skill saw. And I thought, are you nuts? And she's like, this is before massage guns. Like, we were playing all day with this. And then we got talking about serapeptase. And I had almost just lost a niece due to an accident. And if it hadn't been for serapeptase, she would have lost breathing capacity. I'd never heard of this. But I'm telling her this story about my niece and how she went on this supplement. And she goes, Debbie, it's in my list of approved, you know, supplements. If I had the time to read everything there was about lipedema on top of everything there was about vibration machines and everybody who's using them, I wouldn't have to have free Facebook pages. But I'm fascinated by every little thing that I learn and many of you know the things that I already know, but at some point you learned it from somebody like Kelly or Jen. So, you know, the information is out there if you need help navigating within the pages. We just ask you to invest the time, especially if it's, when I hate saying the word common questions. And my big one is, okay, I just got a machine today and I went for 10 minutes. Why can't I walk? It's so much longer for me to explain it than you know, you having a better experience the first time out. So I want to what I'm going to do in the recorded version of this, I'm going to put a link to where you can get more information from these ladies if you choose. If you're here, it's because you're in my group. But sometimes after I've talked you to death, there's questions that come to mind you didn't think about. You can always post those after if you don't want to do it live, or it's something that comes to mind after the fact. If anyone does have a question, please unmute yourself. 1, 2, 3. You may not. We may have been so awesome at the information we were hoping to convey to you today that you're going to go school your doctor and your therapist and your chiro by the time we're done. At least school your family and your friends. You need the support. And you know, like I say, I hope we've given you courage and curiosity today. Cynthia has unmuted. Hi, Cynthia. Do you have a question for us?
Yes. Hi. Yes, I have a question about the fascia and whether deep tissue massages are suitable enough for loosening up the fascia, or should I really be looking into mild fascial release as a massage technique?
So interesting. A couple of things with deep tissue. That's another thing that you're going to have to find out if that is for you, Cynthia, for you personally, because deep tissue massage causes inflammation. Some of us can do the deep tissue. You're going to have to figure that out for yourself sometimes. And I know when I have a client that is just all gung-ho about deep tissue, I'll say, you know what, let me just do one time. Let me just do this lymphatic therapy on you. And I'll just give them this real light tissue massage. It's going to make your body feel better. To answer your question, I think you're really wanting to know, is that good enough, the deep tissue, to break up all of the hard nodules that we have? That's going to be some work you have to do yourself at home to help us out with those, to answer that question.
I want to add to, because I've had a lot of experience with ladies. I didn't know the difference between, you know, the light stroking and I like to be black and blue when I leave them. It's a tolerance thing as well, and bruises heal, but guess what? We're in a community where we're much more prone to that. So what I would suggest, if you do deep tissue now, you know, and you tolerate it well, it might not hurt mentioning to your therapist, you know, I watch these crazy ladies talk and this is something they mentioned. But don't just go for a deep tissue massage if you're doing nothing now. I think it's kind of like, it's like going half an hour on a vibration machine for the first time. To Jen's point, and you covered it, I think you may, you know, do a sauna, use a massage, get back, you know, sometimes when we jump into deep tissue, it's like, because it's New Year's resolution time and we go too deep into the pool before we wade in the shallow end and go deeper. So to Jen's point, if you are considering it for the first time, maybe graduate into it, have a chat with your therapist and maybe ensure they understand your situation. I think the big risk I've seen is your fascia is also not the same as other people's. There's a different relationship. So them just doing even a fascia specialist, you know, if they had a little bit of understanding about the lipedema itself, I think working towards that balance of knowledge versus I'm just going deep tissue, because you will bruise if you've never had one before.
Yeah, so I've been doing deep tissue for years. My body does tolerate it. My question is kind of, is that enough? Or is there something more I should add to the routine? For
well,
the benefit of
now, right? Like if you're kind of hitting a plateau, you know, it might be, you know, maybe it's like exercise. Your body gets used to things, and if we're not changing the routine or the mix, you know, whether the condition has, I don't want to use the word progressed because we don't like talking that word, but you know, maybe you need to add something else in complement to it. If you have a vibe machine, maybe, you know, it's a few minutes before or after, or maybe to Jen's succession, maybe, you know, try some lymphatic massage as an alternative. And, you know, sometimes if you've been doing something forever and we're in that a stop and reset, you know, don't do anything at all or do something different completely and then return to it. Our body gets used to anything, and we're maintaining more than improving sometimes. That's just my 2 cents, Jen. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Well, Cynthia, and if you're trying to break up adhesions, just with your deep tissue massage, kind of like Deb said, you need to utilize something else with that. So utilize your massage gun or whatever, your vibration plate, along with your massage.
The pool would be great too.
The pool would absolutely be great.
Okay.
But I'm kind of with Deb. I feel like if you would change things up, stop the deep tissue for a little bit, try another route, do some lighter work, and then go back to it, I definitely think you will notice a difference.
Okay, I will do that. Okay.
And I have one more quick thing. Things that have helped me the most, because I have a pretty high pain tolerance. Cupping has helped me a lot. And my certified sports fascia guy in about 4 sessions decreased my pain about 80% and got rid of some of the hard spots. But the other thing is the same techniques you can use at home if maybe your insurance doesn't cover those kinds of things. There's a lady in Canada, Deanna Hansen, who has some videos about her block therapy. She does sell tools, but she also has a lot of instructional videos just using a rolled up towel that you can place in different parts.
And we'll make a note and we'll drop her link when I do the
Yeah.
recorded version of this.
I've had a lot of relief and broken down tissue using cupping, using her techniques. She talks a lot about fascia and she has hard blocks that you put on the fibrotic spots, but she also instructs how to use like a rolled up towel or a book with a towel around it. So you have a hard surface in order to put pressure in those fibrotic places. So there's a lot you can do, a lot that you can do at home.
Cool.
A lot.
Thank
If
you.
you have a foam roller,
Yeah.
just foam rolling probably won't. But if you foam roll to find that spot
And
that's
stay on
extra
it.
painful, and then you breathe and you just sit there, sit
Mhm.
in it and breathe, that's helped me break down a lot of fibrosis.
You can also take a broom handle and put it up the hole of the foam roller just to give it that harder part in the middle. I do that for a lot of knee work, swelling the pockets of the knees before I knew what they belonged to. But you know, I'm all about, you probably have it around the house, and the more you learn to experiment and be curious, you know, you guys don't need to keep buying, you know, these solutions. You probably have them in your broom closet. Just an idea. Cool. Cynthia, I hope that makes sense. And again, get back to us if you're experimenting and you do decide to take a break or any. Again, these are just suggestions. We're not here to diagnose. We're not playing doctor today. We're just a bunch of chicks that are sick and tired of being sick and tired. Anyone else have something they'd like to add or share? I got about 3 minutes before I gotta wind down this pony ride and be Life Pro lady. Maybe not. And you don't
Maybe
have
I get to go have my Thai food.
well, I think I've talked everyone to sleep maybe, which is a possibility. But there's a few more dates coming up here. There's all kinds of stuff going on for lipedema awareness, and I find I'm getting to that point in the month where I'm almost overwhelmed and tapped out with information. I love what some of you are bringing to the page. There was a really cool post about some stretches that Dr. Herbst did, and I challenged my friend to do some on camera. And you know, I think sometimes it's like a picture is worth 1,000 words. If I can see the moves, I don't need the language, and I don't even need the translations. I can figure that out. So play how you can. Think of it as playing, not working. I don't like words like diet and exercise. I like things like food plans. And I like things like being active, because I think they all just have such varying meaning, not only just to us, but in the researchers. And if we haven't learned that with the amount of names and different spellings that just this one condition has, go figure. So I think the latest stats are 1 in 9, 1 in 9-ish have, you know, I'm going to hit the fence and say we're probably looking at more like 1 in 5, 1 in 6. That's just my guesstimates. And, you know, you don't need to wait for that sticker. We're here to help you. We've got some amazing resources here in the group. And if you've got some ideas that you'd like to share that I did not cover, Kelly or Jen, I'm going to hold them accountable now. I'd like to do more of these. I'm not going to promise every month, because I got a couple of chicks that not only have good days and bad days, just like you, but I'm crazy unorganized and they're busy. So, you know, we will do this, another one perhaps this summer sometime, and maybe look at something more regular towards the fall. But I really want to talk about that world of what you do without a diagnosis, without an insurance plan. You know, how do I help myself and empower myself now? And I think if I can just get you guys moving and feeling better, the rest is very motivating and really easy to get into the, it's easy to get into good habits when you feel better, right? So thank you guys. It's been too long. I got to do some ass kicking too, and get some more workouts going here. But if there is anything specific you want us to talk about for our next call, or if there's, God, if there's a video I haven't done twice already, you let me know and I'll make sure that I get one done. And sometimes, you know, when you do know, I don't like using the title expert, when you're so intimate with a certain topic, it's really easy to get tunnel vision and not sometimes see the bigger picture. And I sometimes get so into it with vibration machines. It's always important to recognize that self-care is lots of different things. It's good days and bad days. Sometimes it's pissed off and sometimes it's tears. But I think at the end of the day, as long as you're taking one step forward, doesn't matter how big it is, start looking through the windshield and stop looking through the rear view mirror. Okay.